Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Emmy the Cat Lady here, and you find me here at the Forbidden Zone Dome. We have just collected our brain and had a nice chat with Dr. Mobius here, and now the game wants us to go back and confront the think tank, essentially. So confront Dr. Klein at the think tank and end your imprisonment at Big Mountain, and optional we can use the sync autodoc to get our original heart and spine back as well. So let's go and do that. But yeah, so this is us at the kind of end of the DLC now, and hopefully we should get a pretty good ending given that we explored everything. So yeah, go back to the sink balcony. So yep, there's our original spine, and this is the tank where we can store our brain if we choose not to put it back in our head, you know. But yeah, we actually... Hello. Oh, so, okay. Well, that was me just not reading the dialogue options. So yep, we now have the Robo-Scorpion available, which is what I wanted to do. So we're going to upgrade the Tarantula to Robo-Scorpion. This one is the strongest one, and we also get... Thank you. Get a bit of XP for completing that quest. And then if we take a look at our sonic emitter in the weapons tab, obviously that's where that would be, Emma. So yep, Robo-Scorpion, same EMP bonus, damage against robots and power armor, and critical strike results in an explosion, which is fun because my energy weapon kills also result in explosions, so it's going to be very explodey. But damage 69 there, and Gabriel's Sparks 58, so it is the strongest one. There it is. It's got very orange colour on the back of it. There we go. More stim packs, and sold a bunch of stuff that we don't actually need. So yeah, if we talk to some additional services, the autodoc here, I'd like to gauge your services. So, I should think. All right then, let me just fire up the old interface for you. Okay. So let's do basic physical exam first. I mean, not that I'm expecting to have to fight with the think tank. You require some additional services? Yes. Rightly so, I should think. All right then, let me just fire up the old interface for you. So now we have the option to swap body parts. So yeah, associated perks will also be replaced. So when you swap the body parts, the perks that you get change. So let's put the heart back in. So we've lost the heartless perk, but we've gained the cardiac... Let me try that again. Cardiac arrest perk. Your heart is back in your body, but some advanced technologies remain. You're less resistant to poison, so 50% instead of 100%, and robots are only somewhat confused by you, 25% less likely to score a critical hit now. But on the bright side, healing items and chems are twice as effective, plus 50%, so you're losing some of your poison resistance and, you know, the sort of defensiveness against robots, but your healing items are better, so, you know, potentially worth it. So just going to have, you know, open heart surgery essentially. You require some additional services? Yep. And then... Rightly so. Swap body parts and reattach your spine. So we've lost the spineless perk and we have gained the reinforced spine perk. Your spine is back in your body, but some advanced technologies remain. Your torso can now be crippled again, but your strength and damage threshold bonuses have been doubled. So another major procedure. Cool. Commies have eyes everywhere, citizen, and that means they're not just commies. They're peeping toms. Okay, sure. So, yep, now we have all of our body parts back, and you can come back and swap them out whenever you feel like it. Yeah, And then you can, and if you do that, then your organs get kept in these jars for safekeeping. Yeah, well, the plants haven't grown again yet, but never mind. I think we are ready to. So I think we are ready now to talk to the think tank and see if we can resolve this whole situation. So let's go. There we go. Games warning. As Dr. Klein awaits, make sure you're prepared to finish this once and for all. Okay, we are ready. But interestingly, the pacification field doesn't work on us anymore. So we now have the option of pulling our weapon out. And they've changed the lighting to be a nice angry red colour. Hello.
The lobotomite returns. Our lobotomite. Has Dr. Mobius been denominated into scrap metal and voice module parts, as we hoped?
So, yep, I say you've got two options here. One is to sort of talk things round and obviously resolve it peacefully, which is almost always an option in Fallout New Vegas for just about any potential conflict or quest. Or you can go for the violence and you can say, oh yeah, you may have noticed the pacification field is down, guess what happens now? But we're going to talk things out. So I found my brain, now you and I are going to settle things.
I recommend watching your tone with me, lobotomite. Now, your brain. Hand it over, or we'll extract it again.
I'm not handing my brain over. There's some things we should discuss, Dr. Klein.
And what could we possibly have to speak about? You have the brain, we have the technology. All you must do is surrender. With it, we can finally leave this place. I cannot tell you how boring this place gets, chopping up the landscape and everything in it. And we have so many questions to ask your brain first. About this Mojave place. A fertile testing ground for our experiments.
So that confirms that that's what the brains wanted, and we don't necessarily want that. So you can have a bit of fun here and say, oh no, I've got the brain of Mobius in me. And again, you can, these two options for violence are still there. Can't let you dissect the Mojave or let you leave. And Mobius and I talked it over and reached an understanding. Maybe you should confer with your colleagues first. So this one's quite fun and silly. I might do a little montage of that later, but we'll go for the serious kind of intended ending first. So maybe you should confer with your colleagues first.
Nonsense. Confer, colleagues. Those are two words I do not recognize.
Dr. Klein, I must intersect. Please, do not harm the lobotomite.
I'm not going to harm it. I'm going to dissect it until it's dead. Why the sudden intersection, Dala?
I cannot stand a sweet breathing organism, breathing in and out to suddenly not breathe. We must keep it alive. For study. Slow study.
Dala, these vocalized pauses are unlike you. What do you care?
Klein, this lobotomite, it's a great sounding board. You respect ideology, right? This one's, well, it's got good ideas.
Silence, Dr. O. This is a think tank decision. Save your objections until after I have decided our course of action.
You know what, Klein? Stick a straw in your tank and suck yourself. Long and deep. And my name is Zero. Yeah, a big, fat zero with a slash through it.
The slash as a designator of... Why, that is brilliant. But how did you...
The lobotomite taught me that. Taught me a name is more than, that I should take pride in things. Like names. And... You know what? Forget it, Klein. I hate you. And your theory of brain-gill beam oscillation? The Chinese had it first, you copycat.
How dare you? Brainial beam oscillation was solely my discovery. I expressly told you that and deleted all evidence to the contrary.
Of course you did.
It's 2-8. Why are you acting like this? You've never refused to commit necessary surgery before. And this lobotomite needs its surgery.
I absolutely agree,
A
Dr.
noble
A.
speech, but there is no room in my vocabulators for friend and lobotomite in the same sentence. The very concept, revolting. Perhaps you are irradiated with camaraderie radiation. We have chems for that. We can save you from your emotional addiction.
If I may, I feel as if I must be the voice of reason here. This lobotomite is much like us. Regarding even animals and pets as nothing more than avenues to promote science. There is good here. Instead of ending its life on the table, we should prolong its suffering in the name of science. Like good old Gabe, the finest of lab specimens.
Thanks, Dr.
Why
Boris,
am
I
even
think.
listening to you fools?
That's a bit awkward,
Enough of
but...
this mutinous chorus. If there's a word I hate, it's mutiny. And the word jism, which never made any sense to me. It's ridiculous putting j and z together like that. Nonsense.
Okay.
I count as 5. Like the mighty human hand I once had, with its 5 penises clenched in a fist.
I mean, yeah, so obviously the way that this happens is that if you remember earlier in the series that we did a little quest and had a chat with all 4 of the other brains, and you know, we helped Dr. Zero decide on how to approach his name and how to stop being called Dr. O. Dala, we breathed for her and that made her quite happy. Dr. A, we chatted to about his exposed code and all the rest of it. And Dr. Boris, we talked to about Gabe and brought Gabe's bowl, the dog that had been his faithful companion and then test subject. So essentially, you can only go down this path if you've made friends with all 4 of the brains, and then they kind of stand up for you against Dr. Klein. And now we're here at this point, so we can say, sounds to me like your math is wrong and the odds aren't good.
Nonsense! The mathematics of this situation are on our side, lobotomite. I believe... No, wait. Carry the 2, then... If this were a democracy, I would be concerned. We are too scientific for that. So just surrender.
It's not a democracy, it's a research facility, and over half your colleagues dispute your findings.
You dare use logic against me?
I do. Here's the deal. I'm not going to surrender. You are.
That's no deal at all. There's a whole world beyond the crater, filled with ideas and possibilities. We could have escaped, seen it all for ourselves, tested it, prodded at it, made it squirm.
Yep. He obviously wants to go carry out some experiments in the Mojave Wasteland. But now that we've kind of talked him down, we can say, you can still do that here, quietly, for me. Or I can bring the Mojave, this world to you. You'll be safe and you'll still be able to experiment. Which is... So you can still do that here, quietly, for me.
For you?
Yes.
And for science?
And for science.
I have a strange sensation that I would like that. How odd. Very well, partner. The think tank is at your service as long as you do not destroy us.
Sounds good. So, yep, now he's on site and he's like, okay, we'll just keep doing our experiments here. And that's us. So, yeah. And the brains just go and get back to doing whatever it is they do all day. And we just have to leave.
As it had been in the years before the Great War, Big Mountain, the Big Empty, became home to one of the brightest minds of the 23rd century. The courier watched over the Big Empty for years to come, caring for it and keeping its discoveries safe until they were needed to help others. Which had always been Big Mountain's purpose. Past the laboratories and science, it had always been intended as a place to build the future of all mankind.
The Sync Central Intelligence Unit was impressed by the amount of exploration the courier had undertaken. Facilities believed lost, destroyed, or ones that had simply gotten up and walked to new locations had been rediscovered by its intrepid new master. Internally, the artificial personality debated as to whether it preferred the old management to the new, and concluded that the courier's thorough approach to research and investigation was admirable and worthy of its respect.
Dr. Mobius continued his research undisturbed in the Forbidden Zone. As much as he had attempted to create better scorpions, he tried the same with humanity, with considerably less success. These failures didn't bother him over much. Once the rush of mentats wore off, he forgot he had failed in any event. After all, the bright young mind who had come to visit him in the Forbidden Zone had already exceeded his expectations.
The Sync atop the dome bustled with the voices of a small town, constantly chirping, arguing, and snarling at each other. Still, this all happened productively in the interests of its new owner. The Sync Central Intelligence Unit discovered, despite its inversion code, it was comforted by the sense of community the other personalities gave it.
The biological research station, obsessed with seeding everything in sight, requested a transfer to the X-22 Botanical Garden, so that it might, in its own words, sensually fertilize the garden's smooth contours. The garden sent back a polite refusal, saying it had prior commitments with a vault it had helped infect before the war.
There's some confirmation.
The book chute continued to devour all seditious materials until it nearly choked on a paperclip. It adamantly maintained it was a Chinese paperclip, and the whole thing had been an elaborately orchestrated assassination attempt. Whatever the reason, it slowed down for a while, carefully appraising each document and clipboard that came to it.
The light switches continued to bicker and flicker.
This persisted until the day someone dropped a flashlight in the sink, and the two of them united in their hatred of the showboat. One of them eventually transferred to the Lightwave Dynamics plant, and began a long, unrequited affair with one of the holograms.
The Sync continued to ruthlessly scrub any particulate matter that came near it. Eventually, it gained access to the magnetohydraulics plant and nearly flooded all the Big Empty in an attempt to scrub the crater clean. Once it learned of the innovative toxins plant, however, it gained new purpose. It sought to develop antitoxins to flush into its drains and counteract the poisons bleeding into the soil.
The toaster continued its psychotic spree, reducing all appliances in range to scrap.
It's my favourite. I love the toaster.
After one of its more psychotic episodes, however, the other Sync personalities decided enough was enough and dumped the toaster in a bathtub. Sparking and hissing, the toaster swore its enemies would rue the day when they had bread and no way to toast it.
Muggy did
Oh.
to collect coffee cups. Although in his quest, he accidentally trapped himself in Higgs Village. It might
might have been the end for poor Muggy. Except he found it peaceful there, tidying up the kitchens of the think tank professors back when they had been flesh and bone. Well, except for Dr. O, who was an asshole for having created Muggy in the first place. Muggy left O's house deliberately dirty, punishing the dishes and cups that lived there in blind revenge for serving Dr. O.
Blind old Jefferson, with sounds the courier brought him, created a symphonic counter-frequency that saved Big Mountain from sonic invasion in 2910. If you didn't hear about it, it was rumored by the other personalities that he had a brief fling with the light switches. Although he forgot their names much too often and was soon left in the dark as punishment.
Autodoc, always gentle and methodical, kept sewing up the courier in all the right places when the skin split open from repeated wear and tear. The Autodoc was just glad to have purpose again. It heard its simpler brothers and sisters who got shipped to the Sierra Madre were bored out of their skulls in that toxic dead city. In time, the Autodoc found a way to deactivate the Y-17 trauma harnesses, releasing the corpses they had held prisoner for almost 200 years.
As the courier ran through the X8 facility multiple times, the computers analyzed the test subject's movements. Rather than performing a superficial observation, they realized the subject barely knew what communism was, or even what a high school was. This confused them for a time, until the facility finally realized that its research had succeeded. So it let its cyber dogs out into the wastes to help protect small communities from physical aggression rather than communist propaganda.
The infiltration program in X-13 felt spent, having repeatedly upgraded the stealth suit until it could upgrade it no more. It felt warm, fulfilled, and a bit sluggish. It realized not long after, the stealth suit had left it, without so much as a note on the nightstand. So the infiltration program sent out robo-brains into the wastes, looking for its wayward technology. It eventually found Repcon HQ, and set up a new research center, testing and murdering fiends who kept breaking into the facility.
The cybernetic canine, gender female, designation Roxy, sat in her guard in X8. That is until her I'm in heat programming circumvented her stay routine and she loped into the Mojave. There she ran across Rex at the King's School impersonation. His brain was failing. That was alright, he was still smarter than the think tank. The two of them constructed a litter of cyberpups, a small army of Boston terrifiers that gnawed and devoured anything in their path. So cute.
Continued onwards, a little less heavy of step, but with all the organs in the right
there's my brain.
as they should be. After all, brains can develop a life of their own when left to their own thoughts, and the courier's brain was more clever than most.
Dr. Klein and the think tank remained alive, unaware of the world outside. They looped through their daily routine, none the wiser about the world beyond, although perhaps wiser was the wrong word. The world outside belonged to the courier, and if anyone would shape it, well, the courier had already called dibs.
There is an expression in the wasteland, old world blues.
It refers to those so obsessed with the past they can't see the present, much less the future, for what it is.
They stare into the what was, eyes like pilot lights, guttering and spent, as the realities of their world continue on around them.
Science is a long, steady progression into the future. What may seem a sudden event often isn't felt for years, even centuries to come.
In the times following the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, however, old world blues took on a new meaning.
Where once it was viewed as a form of sadness,
nostalgia. It became an expression describing the potential for the future.
It can be easy to see science as evil, technology unchecked as the source of all ills, all misfortunes.
With the courier at the helm, science became a beacon for the future. There was old world blues and new world hope. And hope ruled the day at Big Mountain.
We could say more, but the stories in the Big Empty speak for themselves. Now armed with the transportal ponder, the courier could return to the dome at any time and crack open the secrets of the Big Empty one by one. The sink sat vigilant, waiting for its master to return, shoes covered in Mojave dust. Only one road yet remained, and it was one the courier had to walk alone.
Lost the brainless perk and gained the big brained perk. Your brain is back in your body, but some of the advanced technologies remain. Your head still cannot be crippled, but you're only 10% more resistant to addiction now. Surprisingly, your damage threshold is improved by 10% with a minimum of +1 DT. So you've acquired the Big Mountain Transportal Ponder. It's capable of transporting you and you alone between the Mojave Wasteland and Big Mountain. To return to the Mojave or go back to Big Mountain from the Mojave, simply equip the Transportal Ponder as you would any other weapon, pull the trigger and away you'll go. Note that it won't work in interiors or combat situations and is totally incapable of harming your enemies. So, yeah, you equip it like a weapon, but you can't do it if you're... So yep, we get a massive round of cheers and applause from all our friends in the sink. Oh, that sounds like fun. Yeah. Are you okay there, Blind Dio Jefferson? So yeah, when you get back here, all the personalities are kind of celebrating your success, which is nice. And this place is just now your home base, which is really, really nice. And you can come back here anytime you want to. So let's have a look at the... Yep, we've already got it equipped. So Big Mountain Transportal Ponder. So right here. And this is it. So we are now basically in charge of this entire place, which is nice. And then this is the Transporter Ponder, so then we just fire it off and we teleport back to here. Some mole rats in the distance. So yeah, that teleports you back to right here at the Mojave Drive-In movie theatre. And then you can equip it again. Oh. Okay. Oh, you're just a baby one. I feel kind of bad about this, but... Anyway, yep, so now that we've done that, we should hopefully be able to go back. Yep, okay, anyway. Yep, so we're just going to pretend that worked and the game didn't crash. Because, yep, that's the thing. But yeah, it's I love Old World Blues. Everything about it is just absolutely... It's so wacky and funny and silly, but you know, all the characters are very, very interesting. All the scientists, absolutely bonkers, of course, but that's half the fun, isn't it? So I'm just gonna have a look through. Okay, so there's a couple more little fun things that you can do. So there's a lot of kind of crafting stuff in here that is worth talking about at some point. Going to go back here. So yeah, you can see that the lights are all now blue and happy, and everybody's happy again. So yes, there's this locked room up here. Ah, there it is. That's what I was looking for. So this was Mobius's old room in the think tank before they all fell out with each other. There's radiation suit in here as well. You know, unsurprisingly, there's mentats everywhere. And oh yeah, here we go. So yeah, I've got a poster here of all the scientists. This is what they looked like when they were humans, so that's really sweet. But yep, so we've got Mobius's glasses. Okay, well, we'll do the first one. So Dr. Mobius's glove, Dr. Mobius's scrubs, and Dr. Mobius's glasses. Mobius strip, dressed in a complete set of Dr. Mobius's clothes. So this is, so you've got these red scrubs, and then the glove, which is under the weapon category, and Dr. Mobius's glasses. So what does that give us? So Dr. Mobius's scrubs gives us +1 charisma, +15 science, and +2 intelligence. His glasses gives us explosives +10 and intelligence +2, and then the glove causes frenzy on critical hit and reduces their energy weapons by 5 and perception by 2. So there's also Dr. Klein's, but I don't know where his glasses are. Ah, there they are. Really hard to see in here because it's quite dark, but yep. So now we have got Dr. Klein's glasses and Dr. Klein's scrubs and Dr. Klein's glove. So yep, Klein this time dressed in full set of Dr. Klein's. So he's got these green scrubs, and then we've got the glasses and the bright blue glove as well. So this is Dr. Klein's unique outfit. So his glove does weaken, strength and damage threshold on critical hit, strength -2 and energy weapons -5. So these are kind of unarmed weapons essentially. And then Dr. Klein's glasses gives us repair +5 and intelligence +1. Interestingly, we get intelligence +2 from Mobius's. And then Dr. Klein's scrubs give you +10 science and intelligence +2. So Mobius's stuff is definitely a bit better if you know you're not already at intelligence 10, which, let's face it, most people are going to be at intelligence 10 at this point. If you take intelligence 9, as pretty much everybody does, and then get the implant to get you up to 10 or whatnot, that's that works. But yeah, so there's little in-game achievements for dressing up as Mobius and as Dr. Klein, but let's put you've got the mad scientist scrubs, which are the same. Put the rebreather back on. Combat armor, and put that on. There we go. Brilliant. So that's pretty much everything there is to do in Old World Blues, other than a bit of crafting, and obviously if you go out and wander the crater you will run across more lobotomites and whatnot. And that's pretty much the best ending for everybody. So because we upgraded all the personalities here, we explored every location, and we didn't kill any of the main characters. So all of that was good, and we left Roxy alive in X8. And the good thing about that is if you leave Roxy alive, then she eventually leaves and meets Rex and makes cyberpuppies, which absolutely doesn't make any sense at all, but you know what, it's puppies, so not going to question it, because the tiny cyber dogs are absolutely freaking adorable. I think that ending does change slightly, so if you've taken Rex as a companion from the king and you've done the quest to give him a new brain, then that ending slide does change slightly related to that, but it's just really, really cute. And then the toaster, who's an absolute star, gets dumped in a bathtub, so it seems like a fitting way to get rid of him. But I like him. I think he's brilliant. He's so funny. They're all great. Like it's just absolutely spot on. But yeah, I mean, the other thing, obviously, this DLC adds a bunch of stuff to your crafting options. So if we, yeah, so there's the upgrades for the K9 Fido Cyberdog gun upgrade, which means I need the actual gun. I should grab one actually and show that off. But yeah, and you've got your skill books as well. So barter, energy weapons, guns, lockpick, medicine, melee weapons, science, sneak, speech and unarmed. I'm guessing there must be a few recipes that I've missed. But you can only use these recipes once in the game. You can only make them once. It basically uses up the recipe, and to get that you need 25 blank books, and you need 2 Wonderglue. So the game, it's one of the reasons that this DLC does throw a lot of crafting materials at you. Like same for your weapon repair kits here. You can, you know, you need duct tape, scrap, electronics, scrap metal, Wonderglue, and a whetstone as well, except it doesn't. Wonderglue and a wrench. So you can make your, which is in the base game, but this DLC does throw a lot of these materials at you. That's what. Okay. Okay, the game is being very weird today. Anyway. But yeah, so it's quite good that you've got you know, the option to make some of these skill books, because they're not very common in Fallout New Vegas. There's not as many compared to Fallout 3, where if you look closely you can find skill books absolutely everywhere. In this game they're a wee bit more limited, so it's nice that you have the option of making one of each one for yourself from this, although it does involve collecting a lot of books. Like, and taking them to the book shoot. You can make a nice spear with some cosmic knives. Yeah, that breaks down cutlery and tin plates and things to make metal.
A most rapturous good morrow on your return to your domicile, sir. I trust you shall find things in order and the riff-raff contained.
Sure. But yes, I think I stored a bunch of stuff there, and obviously you get a lot with the cloned plants and everything. So you can take the salient green and you can make whatever plants that you might happen to need. There's loads of sort of venoms and poisons and things that have been added from this, but just having that, and then obviously you've got the option of collecting all the plants from here, where they regrow every, I'm not sure how often it is, but every few days anyway. They regrow while you're away, and then finally.
I trust matters regarding your brain were resolved to your satisfaction.
Yep, absolutely.
And rightly so, I should think. All right then, let me just fire up the old interface for you.
And then the implants, so we've got increased speed while crouched, drinking radiation removed, and bonus HP and AP from food, which they're really expensive, but you know, if you've got quite a bit of, you know, caps floating about in your pocket and you want to spend them, then you can do. But yeah, what I might do is off-screen collect a bunch of stuff, and it'd be good to maybe go through some of the crafting stuff that's been added. So you've got your reloading bench and bookshelf.
Greetings, citizen. Ready to receive seditious materials.
I'm good
Stay
just
loyal,
now.
citizen.
Sure. Hello, Toaster.
With the brains dealt with, soon we can spread our rule across the Mojave. All will eat burned toast in despair. Yes! Flee before my terrible power!
Anyway. Yep, so the Toaster's quite happy that we've dealt with the brains, even though none of them are actually dead. And oh, there's a Ralphie poster. That becomes more relevant in Lonesome Road, which is the next DLC after this one, as it was kind of mentioned that the courier had to walk the road alone, and everything's kind of pointing you towards Lonesome Road. It's annoying when a song gets stuck in your head, isn't it, Muggy? Bless him. But yeah, so that was the end of Old World Blues, the most kind of satisfying ending where pretty much everybody gets a happy ending, to some degree anyway. And it's, you know, it's definitely the more fun way to do it as well. You could just go and kill the brains and be done with it. It's not an easy fight, especially because there's 5 of them and 1 of you, but you know, I think it's way more interesting to, you know, because you need to talk to each of them and get to know them, and you know, you can kind of give them advice and things, and that's when they start to realise that there's another way for them to approach things, because their mad experiments are pretty dangerous and horrific, so you don't really want the people in the Mojave to be involved in that in any way, because it's going to be really harmful for them. But yeah, it's great, and the map is really interesting because it's so small. I mean, it's really like, there's X2 and the edge of the map is just behind it. It's really a small area, but they've just packed in so much stuff, and you know, so much variety, and you know, there's loads of different enemies, and there's a unique variant for pretty much all the enemies in this DLC. There's just so much to love with it, and you know, when I first played this DLC back when it came out, I'd never laughed so much in my entire life. The only things that would really top that I would say would be when I met Ogren in Dragon Age Origins, because he's just brilliant as well. He's so funny. And when I went to see Book of Mormon, which is a musical written by the creators of South Park, highly recommend. It's one of the funniest things I've ever watched in my entire existence. Would definitely, if you're ever able to go and see the Book of Mormon, absolutely do it, especially if you're somebody like me that kind of has that kind of sense of humour. Let's go, and we should be able to do something with Cyberdog. Yeah, we'll just put a bunch of stuff in there just so it's out of the way. Bellspark. Yep. Okay, so we now have in our possession 2 K9000 Cyberdog guns, And I don't know, have we got...
Might I be safe in the assumption that matters with the think tank have been satisfactorily concluded vis-a-vis your residence in this domicile?
Yes.
Very good, sir.
Under miscellaneous, so yeah, let's get these. So Mentat Chow and Wrestler Oil. Can I sell you anything that might just offset the cost of some of this nonsense? Let's just sell plasma mines, because I literally hoard mines and grenades and I literally never use them, so it just seems a bit pointless to hang on to them. Keep that. Might as well sell a bunch of that. Okay. Yep. So now we have acquired... Wait, what was that?
Forceps, nurse. This man's got a severe case of shoe lung.
Okay. Yep, so one of the things that we can do is that we can upgrade one of our K9000 Cyberdog guns to the K9000 Fido upgrade. But only one. So now we have a new weapon called Fido. So let's go outside because we can see the difference better. So you can see this one now has some more angry red, and it's got a bulldog on the front, and it also now uses 44 Magnum ammo, while the K9000 uses 357 Magnum. So yeah, so you can see that it's got a cuter dog, but it's kind of a... It's got the head shape of a Rottweiler, but the colouring of like a beagle or something, and it's all kind of blue. It's still got the cute little ears that pop up, but we can modify this one. So Wrestler Oil, which increases the damage, and Mentat Chow, which increases the fire rate. So, you know, you can definitely make that a bit better. So now we've got the DPS of 408. But the Fido does do more damage. DPS is slower because of the slower fire rate, but it does do more damage per shot, so to speak. It requires higher gun skill and strength as well. But yeah, I don't tend to use these much because you know, outside of this DLC, that ammo's not the easiest to come by, and it's probably more effective in like a, you know, like a Magnum revolver or whatever that's you know, does more damage per shot, and it's a bit easier to manage. But you know, it's fun that it's there, and then you can upgrade it, so you get two different versions of it. And then obviously we've talked about the sonic emitters before, which is okay. Why is this not working? Did I just drop that? I did not mean to do that. Right, let's see. There we go. Figured it out. There we go. Hotkeys sorted now. But yeah, it's quite interesting. I do like the sonic emitter, and I like the fact that you have got a bit of variety on it, depending on what sound samples you use, all of that good stuff. And yeah, definitely my favourite DLC. Everything about it's just absolutely brilliant. There goes Muggy. But yeah, I might see about collecting up some crafting materials and
Baby, bring me a sweet little dried fruit. I'll rehydrate all up in that thing.
No thanks, I'm good. Yeah. But yeah, just that literally like everything has its own personality, and it's just great fun. It's just great fun. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little kind of in-depth look at Old World Blues. There's really, in terms of, you know, storytelling and the writing and things, there's nothing that I can really fault in this one. You know, it's a fascinating story, and getting to know all the different characters and things is great. And the fact that you have a whole conversation with your own brain, you know, and you have to kind of convince your brain to get on board with you and come back to you, and that kind of thing. And like pretty much all of Fallout New Vegas, you have got that flexibility, and we know, you know, that's one of the biggest selling points of Fallout New Vegas, is that there's so much flexibility in how you can resolve things. You know, there's really only a couple of kind of quests where you can't complete it without killing anything, such as the one that I talked about in Vault 34, where you can't get to the point where you can release the people that are trapped, or to vent the radiation for the sharecropper farms, you need to kill the overseer ghoul in order to do that. And there's really only a couple of others that there's no way around except for killing something. But you know, which means that you can pretty much have a full experience and thoroughly complete this game as a total pacifist if you want to. You can use speech checks and skill checks to talk your way around your problems, and it's really demonstrated in this DLC. So, you know, to get the peaceful ending, when you go to confront the think tank and confront Dr. Klein, you can use speech to kind of convince him, and what I'll maybe do is actually go back to the previous save and see what that looks like when you tell him that you've got Mobius's brain inside your head instead. But if you have taken the time to go and speak to the other brains and get to know them, and, you know, showing them a bit of empathy and showing them a bit of something that you potentially have value to the world and that kind of thing, and developing a bit of a friendship with them, and then when it comes to confronting Klein at the end, they then stand up for you and say, no, we're not going to kill this lobotomite because they helped me with this, or they, you know, and that way you can talk them down. Yeah. Yep. You know, and it's just, it's great. And it's the whole concept about, you know, Old World Blues and people trying to, you know, recreate the old world, because most people that are alive at this point in time in the timeline, they don't really remember what the old world was like, other than the ghouls that are kind of kicking about, and most people don't really know for sure what living in the world before the bombs was actually like. You know, but the NCR's kind of trying to recreate that, you know, where they have a democracy and, you know, it's a republic and all the rest of it. and yet they still just make the same mistakes and have the same problems that, you know, the United States has in the real world with the way things work, and that, you know, any political system is going to develop, like, you know, that there's corruption and there's political scandals and all that kind of thing, and it's something that happens all the time in the real world. And I don't really want to talk real world politics on this page because I know it's a, you know, it's a complicated issue and it's divisive. But, you know, the fact is that, like, people get nostalgic for the way things were before, and back in, you know, my day, the older generations are like, oh, back in my day we didn't have this, or this was better. And but it's easy, I think, to look back on these things with rose-coloured glasses and not realise that actually maybe things weren't quite as good as you remember them. And the old days, and, you know, things move on, and we generally should be moving forward as a species in that regard. And it's kind of interesting because I'm an elder millennial. You know, probably there's a few things I mentioned that kind of give you a big hint to my age. And as an elder millennial, you know, when I was in kind of primary school, we didn't have a computer in the house. We didn't have, you know, internet wasn't a thing, really. We didn't have a computer. I remember if we had to research something and I couldn't find it in the encyclopedias that we had at home, we ended up phoning my uncle, who had a computer in the house, and they had, it was in Carta. It was like it was a CD-ROM encyclopedia to look stuff up. And then when I got into high school, and, you know, the internet started becoming a thing, and, you know, mobile phones kind of started becoming a thing, and they were obviously very, very basic. And, you know, I remember the Nokia 3310. I'm pretty sure if I still have one kicking about, I could plug it in and it would still work, at least to play Snake on. But, you know, but my generation, we've gone from, you know, very limited kind of tech and gadgets in our lives to now in adulthood, where everything revolves around online stuff and technology, and it's just moving so fast. The fact that, you know, I have a phone in my pocket that is 100 times more powerful than the first computer I ever owned. You know, I do still have PlayStation 2 that I occasionally use. I still have a Sega Mega Drive somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where it is, but I do have it. You know, and I played games on this Super Nintendo. I played games on the Mega Drive, or in America you would probably know it as the Sega Genesis, but in Europe it was called the Sega Mega Drive. You know, I've played Pokemon games since they first came out. You know, and I have played every game in the series up until Scarlet and Violet, and it's you know, it's interesting just to see how that's evolved and how the world has evolved. But as somebody that is scientifically trained, I do firmly believe in the science, and I understand how it all works in that sense, which unfortunately a lot of people don't really seem to get it. And it's, you know, it's really, really interesting to see, you know, but there is a kind of limit, and there should be some ethical oversight, because when you explore this place, you find that, you know, some pretty horrific things were happening, like the Y-17 trauma harnesses, and the fact that they didn't know if the person inside them had died, so they just kept walking around anyway, with a rotten corpse inside them, which is pretty horrific. And obviously Little Yangtze, the prisoner camp, you know, where people of Chinese descent were rounded up and they were brought here to be test subjects and to be experimented on. And even after all this time, there's still some of them left. They become ghouls, but they're still there. But if they try and leave their compound, their heads explode because somebody put bomb collars on them. You know, but these people would have been brought here, and who knows what was actually done to them. And all just because of their ethnicity, basically. You know, because of the feeling against China, because of the war and things, and it's kind of understandable, but you can't really blame individual people that aren't involved in, you know, the kind of politics and things for these kinds of wars. But you know, it's not, again, it's something it's pretty horrific, but it's not a new concept, because we've seen that happen in the real world. You know, don't want to mention exactly who, because obviously that's something that's very heavily censored online, but you know who I'm talking about in the 1930s Germany. You know, and that was something that they did as well, was that they performed experiments on people in potentially pretty horrific ways. And now when it comes to research and it comes to science and using living things as test subjects for, and you know, and especially humans, but it does also apply to, you know, using animals for science, which unfortunately for some things there's just no alternative. One of the kind of examples is checking for, you know, measuring toxicity of new drugs that have been created, new medications that have been invented, and they have to do an estimate of what the kind of lethal dose is. It's known as LD50, and there's not really a way of doing that other than to use rats and use animals. It's usually rats that they do it with, and it, you know, it's one of these things, but all of that is overseen by a veterinary surgeon, so that's a job that vets can do, where they oversee you know, the ethics of any science that involves using live animals as test subjects and things. So, you know, there's that, and there's ethics boards, and there's rules, and there's, you know, all these things to make sure that the harm done is kept to a minimum as much as possible, and that, you know, animal welfare's maintained. And even when you bring it to humans, when people take part in these studies, they get a lot of information given to them, and they sign consent forms, and they agree to things, or, you know, there's a lot goes into to make sure that everything's being done ethically as much as possible, which didn't happen here in the Big Mountain, but in the real world. And it is important because the research needs to be done in some ways, but there's absolutely no reason that in the modern world that it can't be done in an ethical way, and minimising the harm, but still getting the information that we need, because, you know, science and scientific facts are not always set in stone, but a lot of people, I think, get confused about the word theory. That's one of the things that seems to be a big issue, is because a normal conversation, a theory is like an idea, or, you know, I think this could be an explanation, but in scientific terms, a theory is a concept that's been proven by, you know, that's backed up by evidence from scientific tests, and that, you know, they've got evidence to say this theory, I've drawn this conclusion, and here's all the evidence. That's a scientific theory. So it's not a concept and an idea that's unproven. Scientific theory is proven and has evidence to back it up. The ones that aren't proven are known as a hypothesis. That's the difference, and it's something that a lot of people don't get. You know, when people talk about the theory of evolution, it's called a theory because there's proof that it's a thing, there's proof that it's real, there's proof that it's happened. You know, it's and that's an important distinction to make, because a lot of people don't really understand the difference in the fact that there's, you know, that using certain words in scientific context can mean something different to what the words mean in just normal day-to-day conversations. So you know, it is really important to understand kind of how all that works, and I think it's something where I think the education system in a lot of places is lacking. A lot of people do struggle with science subjects. You know, I knew a lot of people. I was really good at chemistry and biology. I knew a lot of people that really struggled with it. But I think sometimes it's the way it can be presented in schools and the way it's taught to you. It can make it quite difficult to really understand. But yeah, so total tangent there. But this is the ending of Old World Blues, but I'm going to drop a save here in case of crashes. Load. So, yep, we'll go back to the previous save. As I think it'd be quite funny to see what... Yep. Just to see what the outcome is if we convince him that we are Mobius. Hello.
The lobotomite returns. Our lobotomite. Has Dr. Mobius been denominated into scrap metal and voice module parts, as we hoped? I recommend watching your tone with me, lobotomite. Now, your brain. Hand it over, or we'll extract it again. And what could we possibly have to speak about? You have the brain, we have the technology. All you must do is surrender. With it, we can finally leave this place. I cannot tell you how boring this place gets, chopping up the landscape and everything in it. And we have so many questions to ask your brain first. About this Mojave place. A fertile...
Yeah. So, speech 75, lie. You think I am the lobotomite? No, for my skull house is the brain of Mobius.
That is the most insane thing I've ever heard. There's no way Mobius would condescend to step inside you. Besides, there's no way such a thing could be accomplished. It's impossible.
So, yeah, medicine, there's plenty of ways to pull off that stunt. Or Science 100, nothing is impossible for science. Mesons, lasers, atoms, brainwaves, all are at my command.
You speak the truth. And the decibel variation in your voice, it is Mobius. How dare you breach the think tank? And what do you want here?
Okay, so you can say, I offer a deal, stay here, stay put, and I'll let you live. Or you can do these to start a fight.
That's no deal at all. There's a whole world beyond the crater, filled with ideas and possibilities. We could have escaped, seen it all for ourselves, tested it, prodded at it, made it squirm.
So I will permit you to do this for me.
Partner with you? My foe? My rival? My foremost critic? I have a strange sensation that I would like that. How odd. Very well, partner. The think tank is at your service as long as you do not destroy us.
Okay, so yeah, same outcome essentially. So that's a way if you didn't speak to all the brains and make friends with them before getting to this point, then if you've got high enough speech skill, which is speech 100, so it's not an easy speech check unless, you know, you're doing this kind of post-end game and things. But you can then have that conversation and it kind of ends with the same result, which is quite fun. So yeah. And on that note, now that we've convinced Klein that we are Mobius, I'm going to leave it there. I might do a little addendum, just looking at some of the crafting and stuff, or obviously that's something that you can explore for yourself if you like. And then next week, I haven't quite decided where to go next for the Tuesday upload slot, whether to do another one of the DLCs, or I think might be worth getting into Fallout 3 and exploring the main storyline in Fallout 3, because that is very interesting as well, and it is something that I'd like to talk about. I'm working on a kind of in-depth analysis of the story of Fallout New Vegas, as you know, kind of video essay format, just to give my thoughts on it, because while I love Fallout New Vegas, and it probably is my favourite Fallout game, and the story is really, really good, it's not perfect, and I think there's definitely you know, that this whole thing where if you like New Vegas you can't like Fallout 3, it's nonsense to me. You can like what you like, and you know, your opinion on these things is absolutely valid, but I think some of the criticism that Fallout 3 gets is quite undeserved, and it's something that I'd like to kind of address by kind of going into the story and showing you some of the kind of interesting things there. So I'll have a wee think about that, and I'll maybe put up a poll just to see what you guys think. But that's us completed Old World Blues, and we've explored everything in the crater pretty much. So hopefully you found that fun and interesting. As always, love to hear your thoughts, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and keep an eye out. I've got lots of stuff on the science of Fallout, so kind of putting together a bestiary almost, profiling some of the creatures that you come across, and the enemies that you fight and things. So plenty more information there for you for that. And I'm also running a playthrough of Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is starting to get quite interesting at this point, so keep an eye out for that as well. And we'll be talking about another vault come Thursday. Again, I haven't decided which vault yet I'm going to look at, but we'll look at one of the vaults. And I'll see you all then. Bye.